Welcome to the Good Rookie Show. My name is Fahim.
And my name is Nelly J, y'all. And we are Good
That's
Rookies.
right.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Good Tuesday. And guess what? It's the Good Rookie
Yep,
Show.
yep.
Yep. We're looking for him singing like a yep, yep. I see you, Fahim. Yo, as you know, we come from Toronto, your host, talking about the hottest topics in sports and culture. And this week is no different. But Fahim, we got a special, beautiful guest this week. Please introduce who we got.
That's right. We have someone international, we could say. We're from Toronto, from the other side of the border. Somebody who's obviously going to come in, fill in some gaps for me for some questions I might have. And we'll be able to definitely delve into what she brings to the culture. I'm excited. Let's welcome Karen Miller to the podcast today.
Karen.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Karen, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm very humble and honored to be here with you both.
Nice.
We're excited. And big up to our boy Pops from 94 feet. He calls you the Queens of Queens. You know what I'm saying? So big up to everybody in Queens, New York. We got the Queen of Queens in the building. So no, we're excited to have you on the podcast. So Fahim, let's get into our first hot topic this week.
All right. So, like I said, in regards to questions I might have, I wanted to actually discuss this topic before, but we've actually kind of waited. I figured you would be someone who can really weigh in and actually give a little more detail into this situation. It's the Angel Reese, Caitlan Clark Final Four in the women's college basketball. We know, first of all, both are amazing basketball players. And both have been recognized for not just their on the court, but there's some, I guess we could say, some things that have trickled on the court that usually would lead to some off the court conversations.
Right.
I'm interested to hear maybe if you can let us know from a basketball standpoint first, but then I want to get into the non-basketball related topic that's at hand. I don't know enough about women's college basketball. So you do. So please help me.
So I just want to shout out to all of the women that made it to the Final Four, that played their hearts out, left it all on the line. And so many people have now joined onto the bandwagon, and they know about women's college basketball. They're on it, whether good, bad, or indifferent. There's more viewership, and people are now on board because it's been really good for a long time. So we know that two teams made it in that weren't really expected to make it in. And there was a whole narrative with Angel Reese and Caitlan Clark. And you know how they say any publicity is good publicity, especially when it comes to, women's sports. I think that it really took over the headlines. It just took a whole spin in all sorts of different directions. And I think that if people were watching those players before, they would have known that this didn't just happen. It wasn't just in that game. Like Angel Reese has been playing like that since she's been playing basketball. Like you can go back and watch clips of her in high school, and she was very passionate about the game, and she would talk and chat. And Caitlan Clark has been doing the same thing. I think because of the stage that it was on, and so many people were watching, that's why it got more attention than it normally would have. So, but I think it's great. I think that people realize that women's basketball is great to watch. It's exciting. The women can play. They can play really well, and they compete at a very high level. So I think it's great for the sport.
I do want to comment because I totally agree with you. Two teams, like I did a bracket. I think you did as well, Karen. They weren't in my finals at all. So it was a great surprise. And I think, we talk about, oh, the women's game is so predictable. It's so predictable. We hear it all the time. Well, guess what, y'all? Enough brackets got mashed up. I mean, I didn't see one perfect bracket. So clearly it's not as predictable as people say it is, right? We're seeing LSU never won one. They never had they got one. You know what I'm saying? So we're seeing more being more competitive. And Fahim, do you remember like Fahim, like last year, 3 months ago, I said, if you ain't watching women's college basketball, you're missing out. I said that 3 months ago, and now everyone's like, oh my gosh. Because I'm like, yeah, it's been that good. But to your point, Karen, I think, and Fahim, I think we'll get into this as well. I think the game was so great to watch because you're seeing these ladies play with passion, play with drive. Like it was beyond just a basketball game, right? And I think for some reason, and for those who don't watch women basketball, people think that like it's boring to watch women play basketball. And I think because of the storyline behind the game, we had more people tuning in to watch it. Big up to Don Staley as well. Like there was a storyline behind this tournament for the women's side. Only the second year guys with the March Madness tag as well, FYI. So
Yep.
I think the storyline behind it, having the March Madness, the narrative behind it, and everyone knows Caitlan and Angel to be trash talkers, which is why I love watching them play. They have a lot of trash talk. When I pooped, I trash talk too. So I thought it was great. So for me, I think the story behind the game before and after drove the viewership, and and everyone got the entertainment that they wanted. So yeah, I thought it was great. Big up to all these ladies, all top of their game in college basketball. And I think this type of like rivalry for me, it can be carried into the WNBA if they, do a good job in continuing that storyline. Because again, Caitlan had no beef with her. She was like, yo, what Angel Reese did, I want no one coming at her for that. Because she was kind of like, yo, I would do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like Caitlan respects game, right?
Yep.
And so the fact that Caitlan was like, yeah, don't be mad at her for doing what she did, because Caitlan knows how she be doing, you know what I'm saying? So I just think it's a great thing for women's basketball. So yeah, I'll land there.
So I want to say, like, I feel like super shout out to Dawn Staley. Woo! Super shout out to her team. And I feel most people were watching expecting them to win because they've just been so dominant, right? They've been dominant throughout. And to be honest, that's who I expected to win too.
Me too.
But what's so great about it is that they've made such noise in the basketball world that South Carolina is very well respected. Dawn Staley has really built a great culture there. And people were just expecting to see them dominate and win. And then now they started finding out who Angel Reese is, who Caitlin Clark is, who all these other teams are. Who is this coach? Oh, she used to coach at Baylor. Oh, and so
Virginia
it was like
Tech, all these teams. You're like, what?
Right. So now they know, and they're like, wait a minute, it's not just South Carolina that can play. It's not just Dawn Staley who's coaching. Like, there's an exciting
or UConn. Mm-hmm.
Or UConn. Exactly. Right. So I feel like they're like, okay, I want to join this party now. And it's great. It's funny because Nelly and I have talked 3 years ago. We were talking about how great the girls' game is, how great the women's game is, how they play. And some people say, oh, it's boring, I don't want to watch it. They're looking for highlights. They're looking for dunks. They want to create, and no problem with that. We took the stance as, I'm not going to try to convince you to watch it. We think it's exciting. We can tell you what's going on and what's happening. But if you're going to bash it and if you don't like it, no problem. But now I really feel like people realize, wait, they can really play. Like, they've been playing for a long time. They work really hard. They deserve the support. And so I just think that it's great. And I just have to shout out all of those teams and those schools that those girls to, and people are getting to know more about their character. Like, you even had a lot of people watching the WNBA draft because didn't know
most viewership ever.
Right. They were expecting
most social media impressions, tweets, everything.
Right. So now they know who Aaliyah Boston is, a little bit more than they just thought, like, oh, she's just going to go number one and she plays for South Carolina. It was expected. You got to see all those other girls and hear a little bit about their story on draft night and how excited their families were for them and how hard they've worked to get to where they are. So I'm really hoping that this propels the women's game and it gets the attention that I feel like it really deserves.
So Nelly J, you mentioned the words perfect storm. And I could not be more convinced that that's the best word for it. I have a group chat of, buddies from high school. And I'll be honest, these are guys who don't follow women's basketball. They were tuned in the entire tournament. And when we actually had our last conversation, they were really like speaking to the fact that the level of basketball was higher than they'd asked, like that they given it a chance. It was higher just off of basketball. One of my friends, he said that's the first time he's ever watched an entire women's basketball game. Just being honest. That's why I'm out
and
there.
That's fair. That's fair.
And then that's fair, right? The level of basketball, especially with Caitlin Clark and the record that she did with was it the most possessed, like she was involved.
She had most 3-pointers ever made in a
tournament.
Yep. Male or female.
Male or
man or woman.
Right.
Yeah.
So the level was there, and it made me think of, so women's basketball, it's always been on the rise, right? But there's certain things that I think happen that kind of push you over the top, and an equivalent I think is in the NBA. The NBA was always on the rise, but when Larry Bird and Magic Johnson played in college, Magic played for Michigan State, Larry Bird played for Indiana State. When they were in college and then they went to the NBA, they took their college rivalry to the NBA, and that's something that I think helped the NBA push to another level. I think what's happened between these two ladies can actually be that type of, for this generation, to give that exposure, because there was another element outside of the basketball. But let's be real, the race element that came in with the taunting, trash talking and all that, that's another narrative, another story to it that was just like, and it opened another conversation also. So, I mean, it's just, there's a lot, this, I think is just a great move. I think a great moment in women's basketball that this has happened.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's interesting with the narrative of the race. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but I definitely know and feel that, unfortunately, racism still does exist, for sure. And I think if we feed into that narrative and trying to pit those two women against each other, then it will work. But I love that Angel Reese stood strong on her ground, saying like, hey, yeah, I did it. I said it, that this is how I play the game. And then Caitlan came out and said, I don't take it personal. I'm fine. Like, I saw nothing wrong with it. It was people who were just new to the party.
Not athletes, don't watch really. They watch, but they're not really like, come on, man. We've all been there.
Might have even just saw like a highlight. And you know how social media is now. You see something on Instagram.
They saw a clip.
And it's just clip. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're going to make judgment on that. Well, there's a lot that happened before that. There's a lot that happened after that. So you'll have like those social media trolls, as I like to call them, that don't even know what they're talking about. But I think that the organizations handled it well. They nipped that in the bud. I know it got a little racy when Joe Biden said that she wanted to invite both teams to the White House. And listen,
can we talk about that?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I understand why Angel Reese felt so strongly about that. Because, and this is just my opinion, if LSU had lost, would Joe Biden have been inviting them to the White House as well?
And that's the thing.
Nah.
I mean, that she wouldn't have. And that's why I was saying, like, there's a race element. And, this is North America. It was built on racism. So let's be real. Like, so for us who live here, it's a part of the culture. It's a part of the culture. And it'll be a disease that we have to combat like every day. Right.
Yeah.
But I understand Angel Reese's stand saying we're not coming. And I like that Joe Biden was like, okay, I'm inviting y'all. Like, I know my wife messed up a little bit because Jill, first of all, as the first lady, why are you even commenting? Like, no offense to Jill, but like, what first lady ever invites like the sport? It's always the president that invites the sport team. So Jill, hold your role. Like, you're the wife. Like, you're very important to the country and what you're doing, but that's Joe's call, not your call. So for her to even speak up and say, oh, I want to invite the other team. No, Jill, that's not for you to do. But the other thing though, I do the fact that, Joe said, no, I want to invite the LSU team, the winner. I'm happy the coach was able to convince her players to come because they were like, I don't want to go there no more. Because it's true. It's a form of like rejection. Right. And again, I just think that we need to be in a culture. And remember, we're evolving in women's sports. I don't think some men are comfortable seeing women in an aggressive way playing basketball and taunting and trash talking. Listen, I've seen men say a lot worse on the court, basketball, football, and no one cares. But because it's women, oh no, women shouldn't be saying that. No. It's sports. Sport is a barbaric. It brings out the animalistic part of you, right? Yeah. It pulls that out. So we can't expect these women to compete at the highest level and be all like, "Oh, Caitlan, good job." No, we're competing. So I just think that it was another to your point, Fahim, reminder to society that, hey, these are athletes first. Yes, they're women, but they're athletes first.
Yes.
They're athletes first. Respect that. And then we can talk about them being a woman. But I just think that that's where we're moving to, is looking at these ladies as athletes first and not just women on playing basketball.
Right. So I think that Jill misspoke or spoke a little bit too soon.
Yeah.
And I felt like from a damage control perspective, like they jumped on it right away and said, let's clean it up. Because what she could have said is, I said it because I thought they both played really hard, et cetera, et cetera. But then we go into the conversation about giving out participation trophies. And our girls, women, and just people in general need to learn how to lose and need to know that not everybody's going to win all the time. And that's okay, because that's just a part of life. That's how that works. And in regards to being, barbaric and competitive and compassionate, I always tell this one story about when I was coaching a game, and it was very physical, very intense, but that's how we want the girls to play. We don't want them to, we don't want to break a nail, like this impression that people get that they don't want to get down and dirty or, die for loose balls. And a referee came over and he told me, the game is getting a little bit too chippy for a Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
So I was so taken aback, because my question is, would that referee had said that if it were two boys teams playing? So and I asked him, I said, so are you saying that we're supposed to play different on a Saturday and a Sunday? Like, what are we doing here? Like, how do I go back to my girls and tell them, listen, don't be so aggressive going to the basket. Don't be so aggressive playing defense because it's Sunday and we need to play like girls. No, that's not going to do. But it just goes to show you, like, there is a lot of, expectations or lack of expectations, so to speak, on girls and women's basketball. And again, Nelly, you've been watching for a very long time. Like, I remember being super excited when the WNBA was first formed. Like,
oh my God, I was so happy, girl. Oh.
And I see all these college coaches there and all the opportunities they have to go to college for free and play on a high level and play overseas and all these. It's exciting, but a lot of people just don't know about that. And they don't realize how serious it is in the girls and the women's game.
Mic drop.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely got me thinking, what was I missing this time? And next year, I most definitely am going to be tuning in a lot earlier and being more abreast to what's happening with the women's game. So, I mean, shout out to the women's game, the WNBA also, like you mentioned, the draft. And on one stat on the way out where there's more people that viewed the women's game and they gave a list of a lot of things. Was it like the NHL, the Stanley Cup Finals?
Yeah, I think it was the most viewed ESPN basketball game.
Yes,
it just broke so many.
I remember that. Yeah, it was just it was that big. And I think it had more viewership than the men's finals.
Yeah,
so low key.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
It did.
Yes, it did. And a more exciting final. I even had, like I said, those same guys from the group chat have said that the women's final was more exciting than the men's final.
Oh,
that's how you know you're making progress.
I think it wasn't even a close game. It was just a fun basketball game.
There you go.
Listen. I heard men a year ago who said, I don't watch women's basketball. It's boring. That I heard a Clubhouse like, oh, that's a really good game. But I was like, okay.
Yeah, strides are being made.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So now, Jay, let's go to for the culture.
For the culture, would like to highlight individuals for the culture. And today we get to highlight Coach Karen Miller. Okay. So I'm going to break it down for y'all. Coach Karen, she's a part of the Positive Direction PDNation Stand Up. Okay. Coach with the CYO, which is a Catholic youth organization. And she's also an ambassador for the Lupus Foundation. Fahim, she was part of the first class of ambassadors when they first came out. So Karen is someone definitely for the culture. So, Karen, first of all, I think coaching is a lot of work. Okay. When I think about coaching, I'm like, Lord, because you're not only just coaching, like you're coaching children, you're coaching people's kids, you're coaching girls, you're coaching girls that are going through puberty. Okay. I'm just like, it's a lot, Karen. So, yes. For me, I'm just so like I admire your dedication because literally on weekends, what's Karen doing? She's coaching. At night, she's coaching. Karen works in the day and at nighttime. She's like the Batman of basketball coaches. Like she is doing so much. So Karen, first of all, please. So it must be a passion that you have, right? So break down to the folks, what made you like, what was it that made you want to coach girls? Especially from girls, right? Like what was it, a player? Was it a coach? Let us know your thoughts on that, please. Share with the folks.
So if you asked me if I thought I'd be doing this, I didn't. So I have to definitely give credit to my brother, who saw in me the possibility of being a good coach. He was the one that recruited me to coach with CYO basketball. And I originally started coaching boys and girls. So it was a joint team and then it was all boys. And I'm not going to lie to you. When I first started, I'm like, I had never done it before. It is a lot. And he was one that brought me on board. And it just took off from there. So that was with the Catholic youth organization that I started coaching. And then I got to know the director of the Positive Direction program, and she asked me to come and coach. And I absolutely love it. I love kids. I love basketball. I feel energized. It gives me motivation. And I'll kind of like put it hand in hand with my fight with lupus. So I have lupus. I was a part of the first class of ambassadors to work with the Lupus Foundation of America. And when I was diagnosed with lupus, I was coaching basketball. And when my different organs were being affected, my doctor sat down with me and talked to me about taking time off from work and having to go through so many different tests, all kinds of ologists, a cardiologist, an oncologist, a rheumatologist, hematologist, like all these different specialists, because lupus can affect all of your organs at any given time. Mm-hmm. And it was such a difficult conversation because I was always working, always very busy, always, just doing everything. And as a mom. And when they sat down and said, you need to take some time off, I said, can I still coach? Because I felt like, can I hold on to at least something that I love doing? Mm-hmm. Like, it feels like everything is being stripped away from you. And they said, no, you can still coach. That's fine because, you're not doing 40 hours a week with coaching. I don't know if that's necessarily true now, but it makes me feel so alive. And what brings me so much joy is seeing these, because now it's mostly young ladies that I coach, seeing them build confidence in themselves, seeing them be able to now dribble the ball when they couldn't dribble the ball when they first, came to our basketball academy program here at Positive Direction, seeing them make layups, seeing them actually be vocal on the court. Our younger team of fifth grade girls, the team started maybe a year ago. We played in one of the best tournaments in New York, and we won a championship. And for us, like, it was huge for our program because we have players who play with our program who are all-stars from playing. They were playing for so many different years. They went on to play basketball at a very high level. But seeing these young girls come together, work so hard, show up for practice, get better, communicate with each other was amazing. So it's beyond the championship. It was seeing the growth and development in them, seeing them be able to not pick up fouls because they're sliding their feet on defense, talking, moving, encouraging each other. Like, it's an amazing feeling. And yes, Nelly, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of dedication, but I absolutely love it. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I love that. Oh my gosh, you inspire me so much. So I have a question because you mentioned about coaching and seeing these young ladies really becoming or growing into more of a woman, right? Becoming or getting more confidence and so forth, and how they couldn't dribble to now they're dribbling and how they take that in their life. So tell us a few challenges you've kind of had to kind of learn, because I feel like coaching isn't just coaching on the court. You also have to be like a mentor off the court and help these, these young ladies become like women. So walk us through that type of challenges you faced.
Absolutely. So I become very close to the girls that I coach. And, specifically when you were asking me that question, I was thinking about our current high school girls and how through the years, our relationship has become like, I feel like I'm a second mom. As a matter of fact, a lot of them will refer to me as a second mom. And I always tell them it's beyond basketball for me and for our program. It's totally beyond basketball. And sometimes they're having issues with their parents, where they don't feel that they can talk to them about something, or their parents are telling them like they're not working hard enough, or it could be a variety of different things. Then you have times that they're dealing with issues in school and, they need an ear to talk to. So it really is more than just basketball. We want to see them succeed on the court, but we also want to see them succeed in life. So if they decide basketball after they've graduated high school, or let's just say one of the young girls says, I don't want to play anymore. Well, I'm still interested in what you're going to do, because I have girls that run track. I've had girls that have done gymnastics. They've been in plays, and I still support them in those endeavors because, again, it's about building the confidence in these young ladies. And that goes such a long way. I guess like for me, it's just so fresh in my mind because I just came from 4 games that we had, and there's a couple of young ladies who we have playing up or who just recently started playing, and they're playing in some tough competition. But I can tell how nervous they are. We've had some tough practices where you have some girls in tears, and I come over to them. It's the mother part of me too.
Yeah, of course.
You can take a minute, go to the bathroom, dry your eyes, get a sip of water. I know this is a bit more challenging for you. Tell me how you're feeling. Coach Karen, I feel like all those girls are so much better than me. And I'm telling her, okay, you may feel that way now. And yes, they are better than you, but they've been playing longer than you. They started right where you are. And if you continue to keep working and coming and showing up and giving it your all, you're going to make mistakes. As a coach, I make mistakes. Players make mistakes. But the point is to continue on to that next play. So you may miss a layup. Don't hang your head about it. Continue to play. You may miss a shot. You're not going to get pulled out for missing a shot. We want you to sit down and play defense. We want to talk. We want to see that you're growing and learning the game. And so that really goes a long way. Even girls that have been playing for a long time, like as they continue to play, it usually gets more difficult. The competition gets a little bit more difficult. Now they're competing for scholarships. Now they're competing on these big stages where there's tons of college coaches in the building, and they need that push. Like we, coach them and we're very hard on them, but we're also realizing when a girl comes to the bench and her head is down and she's just totally deflated. Listen, yeah, you messed up, right? You didn't sit down and play defense. The girl blew by you, but now you need to move on to the next possession. Once you get back out to the court, you fix it. That's the thing about life too in general. Like basketball and life mimic each other so much. And there's lessons to be learned on the court that can also translate to life. And so I love that part of it too, because having them be able to feel comfortable to come and confide in me and for us to have these discussions and them feeling like I'm going to actually listen to them. They know I'm going to tell them the good. I'm going to tell them the bad. And I'm going to be here for you no matter what. I love you no matter what. We can win the game. Great. We can lose the game. We're learning, right? I'll our lessons and we learn from that. And we may be upset in that moment, but we live to play another game. There's going to be another game, going to be another tournament, and we just try to fix those mistakes that we made.
So Coach Karen, your energy is very infectious. Like as you're speaking, I'm feeling like I'm being motivated, you know,
You're like, whoo,
yeah.
in the court, Coach Karen.
Like,
He was like, whoo, give me the ball,
like,
Coach Karen.
You can tell this is something that comes natural to you. Like it's quite evident that you have leadership skills, you know, like you care about the people who are under you that you're leading. There's a lot of wisdom I can even tell. Just even not just from a basketball standpoint, but just like little things like, oh, you know, they're gonna say you need water. Like you just have this this real wise seems leadership style. And I just want to ask, so you mentioned earlier about lupus. So I have a friend who maybe 8 years ago had been diagnosed with lupus, and you know, she's doing well. But even before she had told me that she had it, the only time I've heard of lupus was there's a producer, Jay Dilla from Detroit, and he's very popular. And when he had lupus, it was like by the time I got to the media that he had lupus, he's a really amazing producer. And then he went to, you know, he was sick, bedridden, and unfortunately he passed. So there wasn't like a lot of time after his diagnosis. So I was always on the impression that lupus was one of those things that once you maybe have it, you know, there's an end closer. But my friend, she had it. It's been 8 years. She's doing well. You have it. You're doing well. And you're also involved in as an ambassador. So I really like you to kind of elaborate and kind of maybe just really quickly educate us in regards to it, and then let me know about as an ambassador, you know, your involvement in it.
Sure. So I'm really sorry to hear that your friend has lupus, but I'm glad to hear that she's doing well. If she ever needs any resources, she can absolutely feel free to reach out to me. I am an ambassador with the Lupus Foundation of America, and I got involved with the Lupus Foundation of America pretty soon after my diagnosis. Another brother of mine, my brothers are always introducing me to such great things, right? Told me about a lupus walk. And I went and did the lupus walk, and I did it by myself because I just wanted to check it out and see what it was about. And I got involved. I was asked to be a part of the first class of lupus ambassadors, so community ambassadors. So what we do is we go out and we go to corporate events, health fairs, synagogues. Next week, I'll be going to DC to advocate in front of Congress for more funding and awareness for lupus. It's been an amazing experience with the Lupus Foundation. Being involved with the Lupus Foundation of America has absolutely changed my life. It has given me so much hope. I've connected with so many other people living with lupus. I've unfortunately also met people whose family members have died from lupus, friends who I got involved with have died from lupus. And I say that my advocacy is for me, but it's also on behalf of those who are shamed to even say that they have lupus, because there's certain things that happen that people don't like to talk about. There's people who are afraid to lose their jobs because they will be seen as they're sick all the time, or, you know, they're not going to be well. And for the people who lost their lives, like they're not here anymore to advocate on their behalf. Lupus is a very cruel, mysterious disease, and no two cases are the same. So for one person, it may be hair loss. For another person, it may be kidney involvement. Another person, it may attack their heart. It can attack your brain, joint pain. Like it's chronic inflammation in your body, and it can attack any of your organs at any given time, no warning. And there's a lack of education. There are people who are living with lupus who will not speak about it. They will not get care. They will not go to the doctors and talk about it, because in a lot of communities, especially in the African-American community, it's almost like taboo that you have lupus. Like, you don't want to talk about this. You don't want to be seen as weak. And I feel that to be that voice and to connect with so many people and to speak out and say, hey, this is what happened to me. And then someone else is like, wait, I didn't realize that had to do with lupus, because sometimes people are not connecting the dots. Even in the medical field, the doctors are like, oh, they just chalk it up to, it could be this, it could be this. But when so many of us are speaking out and sharing our stories and sharing our journey, it's very empowering for us because we feel like we're giving back, but we're also learning about the disease together, right? So there's one friend that I met and we were super, super close. So much that we've shared so much of our journey. And I'm like, I hadn't even realized that certain things had to do with lupus, because unfortunately, again, it can affect your eyes, your mouth, your whole entire body. But it's super empowering to feel like I'm making a difference. And I definitely feel like I am making a difference with the Lupus Foundation of America. And again, the support and resources that they have provided and partnered to give us as patients and advocates a voice is amazing. It has been truly, truly life-changing. And I'm forever grateful for being a part of the organization.
I'm glad that you chose strength over fear. It would have been very easy to get a diagnosis and, react. You've taken it like a champ, you know what I'm saying? And just the fact that you're looking to inspire others, like, I got to put a lot of respect. I really love that.
I appreciate that. And I have to tell you, like, I would be remiss to say that my daughter isn't a huge part of that. So when I was first diagnosed, my first thing was to go and get her tested, because I'm like, whatever it is, I'll be able to deal with it. But let me just make sure, because it can, run in the family. She did test positive for, it's an ANA test where it could be autoimmune diseases that's happening, but they said it wasn't lupus. But I'm very open with her. And again, I think this goes back to the relationship that I have with the girls too, is I have a very open relationship with my daughter. So like, my family members would tell me, oh, you found out that, you have some brain involvement, or, it's affecting your lungs now, or, sometimes you're in pain. I had a staph infection once. I had terrible experience with my salivary glands. But I tell her this because she needs to know, if down the line she gets a diagnosis, she knows some of the signs and symptoms to look out for. But I had no choice but to choose to live and to educate myself, because I have my daughter and she's watching me and I have a reason to live. And although I will not tell you that there haven't been very, very challenging times, I can't stay at those low points. I have to pick myself up. I have to call someone and say if I need help with something. And I have to keep going, because life is too short. And I know that that's such a cliche, phrase, but it really is. I'm very passionate about the things that I do, because I know that it can just be gone in the blink of an eye. So I definitely wanted to make sure to address that as well.
For the culture, it's a big one. It's a big one, Jay. It's a big one. It's a big for the culture.
It's a big for the culture. And guys, we're gonna have the Lupus Foundation link out of this episode. I think it's important that we share it to the folks. There's also a lupus walk in Ontario, Fahim, and they actually have different walks throughout the province that you can participate in. You can donate to individual to teams. So this lupus has been an issue amongst all communities. There's no type of racial, everyone is affected by it. And it could be anyone that you know or don't know that's affected by it as well, as per Karen saying. So let's support this movement. Thank you, Karen. You're definitely for the culture. Guys, if you weren't inspired just now, I don't know what you're listening to. Yo, because I was like, oh, like I was elevating, it was just amazing, Karen. We're just a great speaker.
We're gonna float off of this episode. We're just gonna
float off. Queen of Queens. Queen of Queens, man.
All right. Nelly J, let's start this episode with That's Absurd.
That's absurd. Bro, what was absurd this week? What was absurd?
Toronto Raptors power forward Chris Boucher had, let's say, an online run-in with a sports bettor who had told him that he chose the wrong slave in a bet of a parlay of an over and under. Absurd.
Absurd. So what's crazy, right, is that, and again, we spoke about racism, right? The media, how they perceive, how they report on different things, depending on, pigment of skin. We speak about how folks respond to athletes, dependent on pigment of skin. Now we're talking about the element of now sports betting and how now that you decide to bet on something and it didn't happen. So you're going to call this man a slave? What an absurd, Fahim. Like, this is nonsense, peer abuse. The question is, would he have the same energy if we saw Boucher in face to face? Probably not. Karen, what's your thoughts on a sports bettor who had the audacity to tell an NBA athlete that he chose the wrong slave because he didn't score enough points in the game? Go ahead, Karen.
That's right, Karen. Before you step in, just like for context, the sports bettor needed Chris Boucher to get 10 points, and apparently he only got 5 points. And that's why he's justifying that. Karen, you got it.
To me, absurd is an understatement. An understatement. What, to call someone you bet on the wrong slave is insane. Insane. And what I would tell that bettor is, don't bet on anyone. Just bet on yourself next time, right? Because are you serious? Like, and we feel like we take so many steps forward, and then you have someone that comes out and says something like this, and you're like, we have so far to go. We have so far to go in this fight with racism and trying to change people's mind frames and realizing that words do matter. And it's not okay to say that. It's just not okay by any means. Totally absurd.
But also the fact that, to your point, hearing everything you said, I totally agree. Another element, this guy said, he fully said, quote unquote, I chose the wrong slave today. That means that this guy is a freaking racist, okay, who is trying to make money off of these amazing athletes. But even though these guys have worked so hard, right, train, do all this stuff, no matter what, in his mind, right, he's still a slave to that bettor. And we talk about the elements of sports and how owners, how there are some type of undertones of racism in the sport. 95% Black people in the sport, but how many coaches, how many people working in the front offices, ownership, that's another element. But I just think it's just disgusting. And this is why I'll talk about this, right? Like, I'm a fan, right? I'm a sports fan. I watch a lot of basketball. I know some stuff. I speak on it, right? Love what I do. However, my issue is this. We can't speak on players like we know them, right? Like, when we talk about players, it has to be an element of the basketball court, of how we think they, how we think they perform on the court. But when we talk about like families, personal stuff, I think like some fans forget who the hell they are. And so I'm just so disgusted by this. Yes, Karen, it's absurd. It's disgusting. I'm irate for Chris Boucher. And the fact that, again, he shared this one story. Imagine what other abuse players have received from sports bettors who did not win a parlay or a sports bet for him and Karen because of a player, right? It's just nasty work. And I really wish that they were able to call. I wish Chris Boucher shared with everyone who the sports bettor was. I wish he did.
Right.
So you said others. I just have an example of one other. His teammate, Fred VanVleet, on the same podcast, Fred VanVleet said, and this is a quote, I can't fathom dealing with this on a daily basis. Sorry, my bad. He said, you can't fathom dealing with this on a daily basis. You can't fathom, I hope your mom dies DM every day. End quote.
Disgusting. That's disgusting.
It's so sad.
Where betting's gone wrong.
Listening to you, it reminds me of the shut up and dribble. And I feel that so many people feel that Black people, Black athletes, Black entertainers are okay as long as you're dribbling the ball or as long as you're entertaining us, but we don't want to hear anything else you have to say.
Right.
Or not interested in anything you have to do, or your families. Just continue to entertain us.
Yeah.
And that's awful.
Yeah, and I think that's because they're like, oh, you're getting paid millions of dollars. Just shut up. We're paying you all this money as a black. Like, no. These guys earn every check. Like a lot of these players are dedicated like lives, like going like spending time with family for basketball. Like they've given 24/7 to basketball, like more than 10 months a year. You know what I'm saying?
And their best
some of them don't take any vacations. It's just, I just think like people forget hoopers, basketball players are human too. And how would you like it if your friend was getting threats every day? You wouldn't be happy with those fans. That's why I hate, like, keep it on the sport. You don't gotta talk to people's family, mothers, like get that out. Those aren't real sports fans. Those are those are bad human beings. They're not really sports fans. I'm sorry.
And these players, they are specialists at what they do.
They
are the top 300 on the planet.
Hello.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Absurd. All right. On that note, Nelly J, let's put this episode in the books.
Woo, y'all, that was the Good Rookie Show. We had Miss Karen, Coach Karen Miller, on the podcast doing her thing. Karen, this is a time where we allow our special guests like yourself a chance to do a shout out. So the floor is yours.
First of all, I have to thank both of you for having me on here. When I was asked, I was like, me? So I'm very, very humbled. I thank you both. I think you guys do an amazing, amazing job. Definitely appreciate being on here. And I would love to definitely shout out Positive Direction, also known as PDNation. Find PDNation on Instagram. I'd also like to shout out the Lupus Foundation of America. We talk about, I do walks, we do events. I'll be going to DC next week. So definitely shout out to both of the organizations that have really made a difference in my life and all of the people involved.
Awesome. I love that shout out. Whew. Well, my shout out is to you, Coach Karen. Again, you're inspiration to a lot of people. I think what you do is so important because I do think children today need a village behind them. And I think you are a part, I think you're in a village of lots of up-and-coming young ladies that I think you're really critical to their development and adapting to society. So thank you for all that you do. That's my shout out, Fahim.
Thank you.
Your problem.
Nice. My shout out, first of all, Coach Karen, like I said at the top, really interested to see what's beyond basketball with you. And man, I was really blown away. You really inspired me actually, not just in regards to how you deal with the people that you're with, but how you're inspiring others who you don't know, I think that's huge. Also, I just want to say that on all your platforms, Nelly J is going to put the Instagram link so we can get some support in regards to that. So it's great having you. And I do want to thank you also for the insight that you did for the women's basketball at the start also, because that's something that I really, Nelly J, we have conversations about it and others, but the insight was well needed, I think. So thank you. On that note, I think I just want to slip in one last shout out to the Toronto Raptors. Their season's done, but best luck next year. And I think that's about it. I think I just want to put the episode in the books.
Okay. Well, y'all, that was the Good Rookie Show. If you had a good time and you enjoyed yourself, please like, subscribe, ring that bell to get alerts of the up-and-coming episodes, and tell a friend to tell, 3 or 4 or 5 friends. Shoot, down.
And keep in mind, let's tap in with Coach Karen. She's a real one.
Thank you.
All right, let's put this episode in the books, and that's Good Rookie Show. We are on all platforms if you're looking for us, and we out.
Peace, y'all. Bye, Coach Karen.